or in this case, the right to take down a few Sith Lords. The final battle came at Yorktown, where the forces of light and dark met in a cataclysmic struggle. Washington and Cornwallis, Jedi and Sith, fought with the full might of the Force behind them. Flintlock blasters cracked through the air like thunder, while lightsabers sliced through the gloom, each swing a testament to the fight for freedom. And when the dust settled, it was the colonial Jedi who stood victorious. Cornwallis defeated, surrendered, and the force of liberty triumphed over tyranny. The Sith were driven back across the sea and a new hope was born, a republic where the force of freedom would reign supreme. But the story does not end there. Knowing that the dark side could rise again, the Founding Fathers in their final moments channeled all their power, their wisdom, and their hope for the future into one single powerful crystal, a crystal of liberty. They knew that one day the force of liberty would need a new champion, someone worthy to wield this ancient power and restore balance when the force of freedom was once again threatened. For generations, the crystal lay hidden, its power waiting for the right moment, the right person to awaken it. And then, one fateful day, it was discovered by a man named Austin Peterson, a libertarian, a modern-day freedom fighter who would fulfill the destiny set in motion centuries before. The crystal called to him, and with it, Austin took up the mantle of the colonial Jedi, determined to bring balance back to the force of liberty in the United States. Through his show, the Wake Up America show, Austin Peterson became the voice of resistance, the spark of rebellion against the creeping darkness of tyranny. With the power of the Founding Fathers' crystal, he fights not with lightsabers or blasters, but with the force of truth, reason, and unwavering dedication to the principles of liberty. So remember, young Padawan, the fight for freedom is never easy, but with courage, unity, and a little bit of force on your side, even the darkest Sith can be vanquished. May the force of freedom be with you, always. In a galaxy not so far away, but a couple of centuries ago, a great struggle unfolded. A time of turmoil, where the force of freedom clashed against the oppressive grip of tyranny. This is the story of the Founding Fathers, the brave Jedi of the colonies, who dared to defy the dark side of the Redcoat Sith. Master George Washington, leader of the colonial Jedi, was no ordinary soldier. With a flintlock blaster in one hand, capable of delivering precise shots with the power of 1,000 musket balls, and a lightsaber forged from the ancient Liberty crystals, Washington was the beacon of hope in the darkness that covered the 13 colonies. And then there was Benjamin Franklin, the Yoda of the Revolution. Wise, cunning, and always a few steps ahead, Franklin's mind was sharper than his lightsaber, which he personally modified to discharge bolts of lightning, perfect for frying any Redcoat Sith foolish enough to cross his path. But the colonial Jedi were not without opposition. The Redcoat Sith, led by the Dark Lord Cornwallis, had crossed the Atlantic, bringing with them the dark side of taxation without representation. Their red lightsabers blazed like the very flames of oppression, ready to extinguish the light of liberty forever. The battles were fierce, and the stakes higher than the price of tea in Boston Harbor. At Bunker Hill, the colonial Jedi held their ground, their flintlock blasters firing energy bolts that could punch through the toughest redcoat armor. With each pull of the trigger, a burst of light and smoke, a fusion of the old and the new. And who could forget Thomas Jefferson, the Jedi Knight who penned the Declaration of Independence with one hand while wielding his lightsaber with the other? It was he who gave voice to the rebellion, declaring that all men are created equal, with the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Or, in this case, the right to take down a few Sith Lords.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. It's Tuesday, the 24th of November. I'm just kidding, guys. You still got a little time to do some Christmas shopping and some Halloween shopping, too, at... Looky here. Hold on. Where's it at? Get the camera over here. Hold on. Get out. ForLibertyShop.com. That's my beautiful new... I know you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day, guys. It's my beautiful new, soft, silky, smooth ForLibertyShop.com polo. The new Adidas polos in stock at ForLibertyShop.com. See the logo on there? It's embroidered. It's beautiful. We've got a bunch of beautiful embroidered golf shirts over at ForLibertyShop.com. Some nice American flags and things like that. I thought I'd rep the shop with a really cool embroidered... Well, let's see. Can you see it there? I'm sexy and I know it. Dum, 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 dum. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Pop. The Wake Up America show brought to you by viewers and listeners like you who click the like button. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show and you enjoy the content and you want to come back, make sure you click the follow button as well. Donald Trump says, abolish the Department of Education. Oh my God. The Democrats are like,
How dare you?
Please, no! No!
they're just freaking out. But if some of these polls don't start looking a little bit more Trumpy, well, they're going to have the last laugh. I spoke to Maxim a lot about the polls yesterday. It was a great interview. If you missed yesterday's show, make sure you go back to check out his take on it. He's the co-founder of electionbettingodds.com, works with John Stossel on that and many other projects as his producer. Maxim, a brilliant guy. Definitely make sure you check out that interview from yesterday. But today we've got two guests, one brand new guest I'm excited to introduce you to. But coming up first at 8 a.m. Central Time, our regular guest, Kamala Peterson. All of your hearts will melt. Oh. Everybody loves Kamala. She joins us Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. Central Time. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some gossipy stuff. It's kind of sexy. It's kind of fun. But it's really funny, too. It's the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. story. Have you heard about this journalist, Olivia Nuzzi, who apparently was kind of like the bunny burner, you know what I'm saying, right? Like the, so my wife just saw that movie for the first time recently. Bunny burner movie. Do you guys know which one it is? If you can name it over in the chat, you win 1 million internet points this morning. Welcome to the live Wake Up America show. Yeah, just basically stalking him and sending him nudes and nerds and all these photographs that just apparently were unwanted, which I kind of find hard to believe a little bit. I don't know. You know, RFK Jr., he's jacked. He's on the juice. He's juicing. And he's in his, 60s, but he looks like he's in his, late 40s, early 50s. So these journalists, man, and apparently, long story short, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has always been a horn dog. Oh, God, Kennedy's being a horn dog. Who would have known? Who would have thought?
Do not come.
All of a sudden, the Democrats are like,
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
and it's the Republicans who are like the party of fun and sexy times. And speaking of sexy times, I've got a great guest for you today at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, joining us for the very first time on the show. Her name is Audrey Pope, and she's an interesting character, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to her today. And Audrey Pope is going to join us today to talk a little bit about the Puff Daddy story. I've finally done my homework, done some reading and researching last night, and thought that my guest, Audrey Pope, would be good to discuss that, the allegations against the rapper Puff Daddy of the wild, lewd, and lascivious parties that are definitely going to get me demonetized on YouTube this morning, which is why we love that we have rumble.com, right? Who said Fatal Attraction? Barney Styles. You win 1 million internet points this morning, Barney. Thank you very much. But we're going to speak to Audrey Pope this morning. She's from a rough background. She struggled with addiction and sex work, and she has now reformed herself, and she has a great degree in computer science. She's a former atheist. Now she's Christ curious, and she is a Trump supporter. So this is a fascinating character. How did you find this person, Austin? Well, she made a video about J.D. Vance when this Molly Prince character from the New York Times was calling J.D. Vance a racist. At the time, I reached out to her to book her on the show because I liked her POV. And, come to find out a month later that we just got our wires crossed and DMing each other. So I finally found her yesterday. And I was like, you know what? Why don't you come on the show, introduce yourself to everybody this morning? I think an interesting character, interesting POV. Audrey Pope joins us live this morning at 8:35 a.m. Central Time. I think you guys are going to love that story. You're going to like our guest. And we're going to talk, of course, about topics that will get us banned from YouTube. So get those Rumble Rant donations in early and often, because I can't make any money over there today. Or I definitely won't once they find out what the topic is. I might just have to turn off the stream even. Sorry, guys, over there on YouTube. I know that some of you, more and more people, like in terms of like more and more as in like maybe a half dozen more or so, have been watching us over on YouTube lately, at least according to the analytics. So just an FYI, the best place to be if you want to hear my uncensored commentary is at rumble.com/AP for Liberty, where I can talk to you about matters that, I don't know, what YouTube doesn't want us to talk about, or they're concerned that kids are going to see it. I always mark it as not for kids, but it is adult topics, but it's important political topics that matter to our country. And it's not just celebrity gossip. If some of these people that are named in the indictments that are coming down against P. Diddy involve political figures, which I imagine many of them are, or political or are tangentially related, sort of like the Jeffrey Epstein case. Royston Marshall is watching from London, praying for Trump and America. Thank you, Royston. Dash, good morning. It's nice to see you over there on YouTube. I do like to pop in and out over there, guys, so let you know that I am seeing you, and a reminder, too, that I need to turn on the comments so that you guys can see your comments in the top right-hand corner of the screen, right? Right, there you go. Okay, we've got, let's see, Drew Van Runkle, Blue Trike, Puff Daddy, as well as Mongoose 87, Kayla Vanderfelt's Clementine, Joni Rankin, Dad Bob Baboon, and so many others joining us live over the Rumble. Nice to see you guys. Puff Daddy and P. Diddy are the same guy, by the way, Mr. Vanderfelt's. Christ curious, may you find a savior and a friend, says Blue Trike. Well, we'll find out. We'll talk to Audrey about that at 8:30. Last night, Donald Trump took to the stage in Pennsylvania to discuss his plans for the Department of Education. Take a listen to this.
We spend more money per pupil than any other country by far, and yet we're at the bottom of the list. Out of 40, we're ranked about number 40. And I'm going to close the Department of Education and move education back to the states. And we're going to do it fast. Maybe I'll have you do that. I'll use Lee. Maybe I'll have you. You could do it. That's not too easy. We'll get somebody great. We'll get Lee Zeldin is here with us tonight. I think that's the job for Lee. We spend more.
There you go. Donald Trump saying he's going to close down the Department of Education. Now, obviously, this is the kind of thing where you guys are familiar with this kind of rhetoric. It sounds like the kind of thing that Republicans have been promising for years. Will Donald Trump actually do it? Well, that's what people asked Thomas Massie in an interview last week that was released on Fox News. Representative Thomas Massie is suggesting that Republicans could dismantle the Department of Education, if the GOP wins control of both Congress and the White House in November. It just makes me very excited. Very exciting. Would former Trump follow through with it? Honestly, I think it depends on who controls Congress and who his cabinet secretary is. The Kentucky Republican Thomas Massie made the comments the day after Trump's interview on X with Elon Musk, in which Trump suggested doing the same. So they've been talking about what they want to do for some time. But here's the man himself, Thomas Massie, who there are very few Republicans that I trust in Washington, D.C. Thomas Massie is one of them. So when he says things like this, I get a little bit more hope. I mean, he's not committing here, but I think that he has a good analysis. He says, what I'm going to do, just pumped up. Trump said on Monday night, what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up the Department of Education, move education back to the states. Isn't this exciting? Joni Rankin's excited. I see you in the chat, Joni. What's up, honey? Nice to see you, beautiful. She says she didn't hear this. She's been preaching this back when Kemp ran for president. Only one with the balls to say it. Yes, very true. What's up, LW78? How you doing, friend? It's good to see you, brother. Dobbs, you've been so generous in helping to fund the Wake Up America show. I'm very grateful. I hope that you'll continue to do so to help us to grow our For Liberty network. I'm getting more and more excited as I'm working on all of the behind-the-scenes stuff to launch 2 brand new shows coming this fall to the network that I'm creating. We're going to blow them away. You know what I mean? We're going to blow them away. They're not going to see us coming. They're going to try and ignore us at first, but first they ignore you. Then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. You're going to be like, where did this come from? This all of a sudden, all of this live programming, live Liberty programming, all this great, entertaining, high performing, high viewing, high quality content from this For Liberty network. Where did this come from? And some people are going to be super jealous and be like,
How
dare you succeed where I have not been able to succeed. But if you want to continue to see something like that happen, you got to take a page out of the LW78 playbook and either head to forlibertyshop.com or you've got to bless me with something.
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
What?
What? So make sure you get those Rumble Rant donations in or go to forlibertyshop.com. Hold on, where's my beautiful forlibertyshop.com and get yourself something nice, maybe from the Halloween collection. Today you should buy a box of Founding Flavors coffee to go with whatever you buy. You can also get the mugs with the beautiful illustrations that Stephanie and I designed in that Founding Flavors collection. So get some coffee, get some mugs, get some beautiful Adidas polos. Look at that beautiful logo on there. Hold on, okay. See, I'm usually like not a guy for brands. Like I really don't care typically to wear brands at all, ironically, because this is nothing but a branded polo. But I usually don't like wearing any brands, but Adidas is kind of the one exception. I do wear like Adidas stuff with Adidas logos on it just because whatever reason. It's understated, it's not in your face, right? It's not gaudy or crazy or wild. It's not like Calvin Klein across your chest or something like that. It's just like a beautiful little logo, right? And it's not obtrusive. It's not in your face. And that's typically kind of the stuff that I like to wear. But, and I mean, not that I don't wear shirts and stuff that's obtrusive and in your face. Okay, Austin, stuck your foot in your mouth with that one to some extent. But I mean, when I'm wearing my normie clothes, my civilian clothes, when I'm not in costume and I'm not in character for the Wake Up America show, this AP for Liberty character that you enjoy watching 5 days a week, 2 hours in the morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Central. Click that like, follow, and subscribe. Thomas Massie introduced a bill late last year that would do just that, not but it would abolish the Department of Education. Oh my God. John and KC drinking his Founding Flavors. What's up, Johnny boy? The bill apparently has more than 30 House GOP co-sponsors, including vocal Trump allies like Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Byron Donalds of Florida. That Byron Donalds of Florida, man, he's a good dude. While Massie has not had conversations with Trump or his campaign about the bill, Massie said it's an issue he's discussed with Trump-aligned Republican lawmakers, quote, all the time. Nice. It signals that the effort, long pushed by conservatives, could potentially materialize if Trump and Republicans take over the levers of power in Washington in November. Oh, God. Dear Lord, make me a bird so I can fly far, far away to Washington, D.C. and abolish the Department of Education. Dear God, make me a bird so I can fly far, far, far away and abolish the Department of Education. Good morning. It's the Wake Up America show. We're talking about Thomas Massie. We're talking about Donald Trump abolishing the Department of Education. We're getting hot. We're getting heavy. We're making out with the ideas of liberty. If you were going to make out with Lady Liberty, do you think that she'd be a good kisser?
I can first.
Or to be like Kamala, be like dry and dead and just kind of like, she's kind of sweaty when you pull her in and her hair is kind of like matted and sticky and stuff like that. She goes right. Kamala's the type that goes right for the tongue right away. And it's kind of like, easy, baby. This is our first kiss. It's like, you got to come in with it's like, lady, can you just get that locked down? Thank you to Urs Mommy. She got a Get Spooky With It tee over at forlibertyshop.com. That's halfway towards the $60 bonus content unlock. We just have to raise $30 more by the end of the show, and you guys will be able to see today's bonus content, which is lovely. Donald Trump says we are the party of ...
We're the party of common sense. That's what we are. That's what we are. We want to have strong borders, great education, school choice. Does everybody like school choice? We want to.
Now, you need to talk to your Trump supporter friends here in Missouri about school choice, Donald, because there's a lot of weirdo right-wingers here in Missouri that have suddenly become anti-school choice, and it's kind of ticking me off.
God! No!
Oh, Nancy, did you just do that?
No!
Did you just do that, Nancy? Did you just go over there and unlock that bonus content over at forlibertyshop.com? Oh, my God. Good morning, everyone. We did it. So whenever I go to a commercial break later, instead of commercials, you get to see the bonus content. I hope you appreciate that and say thank you to Urs Mommy over in the Rumble chat for unlocking the bonus content so nice and early this morning. Thank you, Urs. Yeah, see, that's all you got to do. Just order a couple of shirts. It's not much, right? And it helps us to keep the Wake Up America show going strong. Now, one thing that Donald Trump said last night in Pennsylvania that I did not agree with, though, take a listen to this.
Just notice behind me John Deere tractors. I know a lot about John Deere. I love the company. But as you know, they've announced a few days ago that they're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States, so that if I win, John Deere is going to be paying a 200%. They haven't started it yet. Maybe they haven't even made the final decision yet, but I think they have. John Deere is going to, and anybody else that does this, because it's hurting our farmers, it's hurting our manufacturing. And if you do that, you're going to have a 200% tariff put on the product that you make in Mexico, right across the border. They think they're going to make product cheaper in Mexico and then sell it in for the same prices they did.
Okay, so pause for a second. So obviously I don't agree with that, but let me explain to you how this works, okay? And if you don't own a business, you've never experienced a situation where your supply chains get wonky, prices go up, and you have clients that you have to serve. Here's the thing. I'm not going to take milk out of my baby's bottle and pay a tariff to the American government that's going to waste my dollars and take that tariff and then just give it to the government. I'm not going to do that, okay? What am I going to do? I'm going to pass the cost on to the consumer. They can't force me not to, right? If you raise the prices on business owners like me are just going to raise the prices on the people who buy from us. That's you guys, by the way. And before you give me if I don't, then that means less milk for the baby, right? If I do, that means less clothes for the baby, less in my baby's college fund. And, my baby's 2 months old and I'm going to do what it takes to protect my resources. So when you talk about a 200% tariff, that goes to the consumers. John Deere isn't going to pay the tariff. I mean, they're going to be like, oh, they maybe they'll do less business, right? What they might be doing is saying that John Deere is going to do less business. But then you say, oh, we'll just manufacture it here in the United States. A lot of times, it still makes more sense to manufacture in Mexico, pass the tariff on to the consumer, because the big guys, they don't care. They're still going to get the money because you're still going to buy the product. You're still going to do it. And there's not going to be any competition introduced into the system whatsoever. You're just going to consolidate power into John Deere's hands because they're going to be able to take advantage of this system. And then other companies and corporations, which, by the way, you have to level it at an industry. If you level it at a singular business, like you say, he threatens, I'm going to do it at John Deere, and it's just John Deere. They'll sue in court. The government will lose, especially with this Supreme Court if it goes to it. And it's all a waste of time and taxpayer dollars anyways. I mean, I think that it's really just some of the things I think Donald Trump says he doesn't mean. I think he says them to get elected. Some of the things I think he does mean that he says to get elected. When it comes to the Department of Education, I think Thomas Massie is right that Donald Trump would abolish the Department of Education if he manages to get elected and bring in a Congress, a friendly Congress. And it does, of course, matter who his advisors are. If it's a lot of the same people that we had last time, I don't think that happens. So big question is, who runs his cabinet? Who is advising him, and who he's listening to that day? I mean, you've heard Judge Napolitano, who comes on the show on Wednesdays, talk about his conversations with that, and Trump tends to go with the last guy that he talked to. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Andy Opperman, they're still talking about the Department of Education, the abolishment of the Department of Education. He says, teachers are always complaining about how underpaid and underappreciated they are. I call BS. You let me know when a construction worker of the year gets a White House invite for dinner. Dang, Andy, tell us how you really feel. Let us know. Floby Tenderson says, exactly. They want to sell it to Americans, make it in America. John Deere should too, but JD sucks. They fought farmers, so farmers couldn't fix stuff on their own. Yeah, that's an interesting one, Floby, the question of the right to repair. And I'm agreeing with you on the right to repair. But I think that if you're just like, I'm mad at a company, so I want to use the law to punish them, that's a really retarded way to run a country, right? That is the way that they run countries in third world countries. That's how they run Haiti. You know what I mean? That's how you take a nation like the United States and you run it into the ground, right? You need an economically neutral government with courts that are there to enforce private property laws, rules, and enforce contracts. And that's it. But when you step in and you start trying to tip the scales towards one company or another, I mean, you're just a Marxist, right? You're just the same as the left, and you're just practicing labor. What's it called? Labor economics. There's a there's a word for this. It's a leftist word that they use for labor policy in order to try and manipulate the economy. But again, I understand economics is not for everybody, but I highly recommend that you check out Free Market as Austrian Economics. If that's your first time coming into contact with that word, you will find lots of resources at Hillsdale College, where they have open books, open records, courses on the Constitution and on economics. Donald Trump says it's no wonder Kamala Harris was just officially endorsed by blank. He says he would rather not have blank's endorsement. Take a listen.
It's no wonder that Kamala Harris was just officially endorsed by IRS agents. Do you believe it? That's when you'd say, I'd rather not have that endorsement. But it's no wonder that Kamala...
Pretty funny there, yes. Doesn't want the IRS's endorsement. I talked to John Miltimore about that yesterday. The IRS, if you want to hear that one, yesterday's show on the 23rd, I spoke to John Miltimore for our Mondays with Miltimore segment, and you can find that from yesterday's show in the 8 a.m. Central Time, 1 hour into the show, if you'd like to check that out.
To the great women of our country. Sadly, women are poorer than they were 4 years ago. Much poorer.
That lady with the hard
are less
hat
healthy
behind him right there. I mean, she looks real salt of the earth there, and you got this guy in the hard hat right next to him. You know what I mean? Like, this woman looks like she's worked the mines.
Than they were 4 years ago, are less safe on the streets than they were 4 years ago, are paying much higher prices for groceries and everything else than they were 4 years ago, are more stressed and depressed and unhappy than they were 4 years ago, and are less optimistic and confident in the future.
This is the message.
Than they were 4 years ago. I believe that. I will fix all of that and fast, and at long last, this nation and national nightmare will end. It will end. We've got to end this national nightmare. Because I am your protector. I want to be your protector. As president, I have to be your protector. I hope you don't make too much of it. I hope the fake news doesn't go, oh, he wants to be their protector. Well, I am. As president, I have to be your protector. I will make you safe at the border, on the sidewalks of your now violent cities, in the suburbs where you are under migrant criminal siege, and with our military protecting you from foreign enemies, of which we have many today because of the incompetent leadership that we have. You will no longer be abandoned, lonely, or scared. You will no longer be in danger. You're not going to be in danger any longer.
Donald Trump's statement to the women of America. Now, this video is one that's being touted as popular for people who are undecided voters. Many times people who are watching the Wake Up America show will ask me for the links to some of the videos that I do. I try and bookmark them all. Sometimes I close them before I manage to save them. So these I have all bookmarked. If there's any of these videos that you would like to see or have, then you can text me and ask for them, and I will shoot them over to you at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Take a listen to this.
How are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
Good. Very good. Thank you.
Question.
So we have to start always with energy. Always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal, and we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that, you've done a hell of a job. 5-0, not 15, 50. Interest rates are going to follow, and actually they're going to follow for another reason. The economy is now not good, and interest rates, you'll see they'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, you know, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point? But the reason is because the economy is not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we're going to get interest rates down, and we got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely decimated.
I mean, so far, if you're talking about a question of how you're going to get prices down, it's substantive, it's on topic. He's directly answering the question. And this is a good contrast to, here's Kamala Harris coming up on Oprah. Take a look, same question. Listen.
You know, one of the reasons is we allow a lot of farm product into our country, and we're going to have to be a little bit like other countries. We're not going to allow so much We're going to let our farmers go to
there goes my delicious Japanese food.
Work.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that.
There you go. That is the difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We're going to have Tonylovasco, a surprise guest. It's a surprise because I didn't tease him out. Coming up next to talk about the abolishment of the Department of Education, Missouri State Representative Tonylovasco, then Camelia Peterson, then Audrey Pope. This show's going to be freaking amazing. You don't want to miss a single minute of it. And now you got the bonus content. Thanks to Urs Mommy. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Unlocking today's Wake Up America show bonus content. Your financial support of the show is critical in helping us to build a better Liberty network of shows. Today's content looks at how deregulation can fix the housing crunch. The Federal Reserve's recent rate cut may ease borrowing costs for prospective homeowners, but it's not enough to solve the housing crisis. Lower mortgage rates address demand but fail to increase the housing supply. For a real solution, we must reduce regulatory barriers that make home construction costly and slow. Nick Villa of Moody's Analytics emphasizes that the U.S. has a structural housing deficit, with single-family home completions dropping significantly since 2007. High labor costs, expensive materials, and restrictive regulations are major obstacles. These factors, including zoning restrictions and energy efficiency codes, inflate construction costs and delay project timelines. Regulations affecting all stages of construction, from planning to habitation, add layers of complexity. Professor Brian Kaplan notes that before the 1970s, fewer regulations meant increased construction when demand rose, keeping prices in check. He highlights that cities with strict regulations like New York and San Francisco have high prices and low construction rates. In contrast, lightly regulated areas like Houston and Dallas enjoy lower prices and more construction. Regulatory taxes can significantly inflate housing costs. For instance, Manhattan condominiums face a 50% price increase due to regulations. Similar regulatory costs affect single-family markets nationwide, with substantial variations. The National Association of Home Builders, NAHB, reports that regulations account for about 25% of single-family home costs and over 40% for typical apartments. This added an average of $93,870 to new single-family homes in 2021. Compliance costs are not just monetary, but also involve significant time delays. The Real Deal highlighted a developer's year-long wait to resolve a regulatory conflict in New York City, showing how red tape can stall projects. The Republican-dominated House Financial Services Subcommittee on Housing and Insurance recognizes these bureaucratic layers as major affordability barriers. Even the Biden administration proposes deregulatory measures to expedite housing projects. Some states and localities are initiating deregulatory changes. Minneapolis ended single-family zoning, and Grand Rapids eased lot size requirements. Hawaii and Montana have also taken steps to override restrictive local rules. However, many officials still view restrictive housing policies as beneficial. Overcoming this mindset requires support from residents and lawmakers who need to recognize regulatory impediments as problems. Making housing affordable and available depends on reducing these barriers. Brian Kaplan argues that deregulation benefits everyone, promoting equality, social mobility, and free market prosperity. Both political parties have reasons to support housing deregulation. Democrats can appreciate its social benefits, while Republicans should value the economic and family formation opportunities it creates. Clearing regulatory obstacles isn't a tall order, but depends on American resolve. The challenge is whether Americans are ready to embrace the necessary changes for a more accessible housing market.
Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Yeah, that's right. The For Liberty Network. 2 brand new shows coming this fall to this network that, well, I just came up with out of thin air. The For Liberty Network will have 3 shows. We've got the For Liberty Shop merchandise store. We can get all kinds of delicious coffees, patriotic merchandise, Halloween gear at forlibertyshop.com on the For Liberty Network. You can guess kind of what the topic of our shows are going to be. Liberty, economic freedom, and personal liberty. And, you know, I've always thought that the problem with the American system, if you were to strike the root, frequently politicians, even right-wing politicians, Republicans, conservatives, and even some libertarians, they will frequently attack the branches of the tree of the problems that we face. But when you talk about striking the root, you can always trust Thomas Massie to say things like, we need to abolish the Department of Education. But when Donald Trump says it, then you got to start getting a little bit more interested. More people are surprised that Donald Trump would say it than Thomas Massie, obviously, including my next guest, Missouri State Representative Tonylovasco, on the phone right now. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Austin.
Hey, Tony, Trump says abolish the Department of Education. About what percentage of our problems here in the United States would abolishing the Federal Department of Education solve, would you say?
Oh, I don't know what percentage. I would say abolishing departments in general are a good start for most of our problems. Anytime the federal government is creating an entire agency to do a thing that they're not supposed to be doing at all to begin with, that's a bad sign.
It's true, but when you hear Donald Trump saying it, you get a little bit more optimistic about the possibility, especially when I read this front page Fox News article, Trump to push to dismantle the Department of Education. Rep. Thomas Massie has led the push. He has introduced a bill that at this point has 10 co-sponsors. He's asked if Trump would follow through with it. He says, I think it depends on who controls Congress and who his cabinet secretary is. What's your reaction to what Thomas Massie has said and done?
I think he's absolutely right. I think, the reality is Donald Trump is incredibly more likely to take the advice of a cabinet secretary that he trusts than he is to just kind of unilaterally make a decision on his own. He's shown multiple times before that, he works collaboratively. And I think that it's incredibly important for the sake of actually, making anything even still on the table, that we take back Congress. Because the reality is, as much as we'd like to think that Donald Trump could just do this with a stroke of a pen, abolishing a federal agency would take an act of Congress. So it's going to be a team effort, absolutely.
So Donald Trump says he wants to abolish the federal Department of Education and send it back to the states. People don't really give him credit for being a big policy guy so much. He does have policies, and he's advocated for things like immigration control and regulation cuts and things like that. But abolishing the Department of Education on the federal level, it's hard to fake that kind of a policy. Do you know what I mean, Tony? It's not like, oh, I'm just going to cut your taxes, or yeah, go ahead, cut your taxes, find somebody to do it. But actually sending the job of education back to the states is a huge task, and it conveys to me a sense of ideological kinship in Trump that you don't see with a lot of other Republican candidates who promise to do things. And, maybe Trump is just making promises. Maybe he won't do it. Maybe he won't be able to do it. But still, he's sort of rare in this sense. I mean, do you kind of feel the same way I feel, that there's a little bit of vibing with the libertarian community, a little crossover ideologically with Trumpism and libertarianism, where you and I are in the Republican Party?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting that, of all the things that Trump has kind of thrown out there in the last several months, this is the only one of significance that doesn't really have any kind of populist appeal. I don't know that it gets him a whole lot of votes or support to champion abolishing the Department of Education. I think the average voter doesn't really know the scope of what they do. They don't understand how pervasive and problematic it is. And quite frankly, I don't know that it would play all that well. It probably doesn't help him.
Especially here in Missouri.
Audience. So the fact that he's arguing that, even perhaps, behind closed doors, I think is a very positive sign that he does actually want to do it.
Yeah, no, Tony, it's true. I mean, you know more than many about the situation that we actually face here in Missouri, where for some weird, whatever reason, you've got Republican grassroots activists. I say grassroots, quote unquote. Many of them are like registered lobbyists, but they are actively working against education reform here in Missouri. Donald Trump specifically said in that speech last night, Tony, and specifically that he's for school choice. And so here in Missouri, we're kind of facing this weird sort of like quasi grassroots right-wing backlash against the push that people like you and I have had for years to try and reform public education here in the state of Missouri with school choice, right? To make the money follow the child. It's the parents' dollars. It's my taxpayer dollars. It should follow the child. But when Trump says things like that here in Missouri, for example, he's a little out of step with his own base, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fantastic. I think, the rise against school choice within a lot of Trump's base is just insane. It's never been something that is part of his policy. He did not push strengthening the public education system when he was president. There's nothing to suggest that he would do so in a second term. Very clearly, school choice is an important issue for a lot of folks. And the idea that there's more and more people that are rallying against it, that doesn't feel like a right-wing movement. That feels like a left-wing movement, and that doesn't belong in the Republican Party.
Yeah, no, some of them go so far right that they end up on the left because of horseshoe theory and other things that we can perhaps discuss another time. But I think it's brave when Donald Trump says things that his base disagrees with. I don't agree with him, for example, on abortion, but I think it's brave of him to be a Republican candidate telling Christian conservatives, not only am I not with you 100% on a life begins at conception question, he's also said, I'm for IVF and I'm for the government funding IVF, which he had us at IVF, but then he lost us with the government funding of IVF. But I sometimes get the feeling, Tony, that he's willing to actually stick his thumb in the eyes of his own supporters if they annoy him sufficiently. You know what I'm saying?
I think he's willing to do that to pretty much anybody, and I think that's part of his appeal, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is interesting about Donald Trump, and it cuts both ways, is that, he is going to pretty well do what he's going to do. And I think it is interesting that so much of his base is willing to kind of adapt their own positions to match what he's necessarily trumpeting at the moment, which I think is not necessarily a positive thing for the American public and the general discourse.
Well, it doesn't always work out for us.
His influence, right?
But it doesn't always work out for us, Tony, because we're ideologues, right? We have like a system that we're advocating, right? We're like the communists with their little red cookbook. We're like, road to serfdom or whatever, Ayn Rand or something like that. But there is something powerful about a president who can't be controlled. I mean, think about this, Tony. Who's controlling Joe Biden right now? For example, let me just ask you, do you think that Joe Biden right now is a puppet because of the state that he's in?
Well, I think it's worse. I think it's to the point where people don't even feel the need to pretend like he's the guy. I think we all pretty well assumed that, his first couple of years in office, there were other folks that were more or less calling the shots. But at least he pretended to be the figurehead, right? That, if he was being puppeted, he was a puppet. Now he's not even present and nothing has changed. The things are continuing to move along as they were before, which really well suggests that, unfortunately, in modern discourse, the president doesn't actually do that much.
Tony, you're beautiful. We're always on the same wavelength, brother, and I'm glad to have you on the show. I got to find something that we disagree about at some point. But when it comes to Donald Trump, we are sort of in a crossroads as people who are, of our ideological stripe. It feels a little bit like the liberty movement in the United States is, maybe it's like the phoenix, right? And it will rise from the ashes. But we've sort of been reduced to cinders. And I'm tweeting about this morning. I'm looking at what's happening in Argentina, where Javier Milei seems to clown us with his accomplishments and with his moral clarity and his the fortitude of his principles and ideals. He is not perfect, right? He's just a man, but he seems to be the best example of a successful libertarian, maybe in all of libertarian history, the history of liberty. He's like the highest, most elected, best, most successful ever. And then here in the United States, if liberty wins this fall, Tony, it won't be because it had any of our fingerprints on it. And that's kind of sad. Where do you think we go in the future? Could we, like a phoenix, rise from the ashes? Do you agree with me that the best hope in the short term is to hitch our wagons to Donald Trump, hope he wins, and that Thomas Massie gets to abolish the Department of Education while we scramble to find something in the medium to long term? Give us your prognostication, Zoltar, and maybe a fortune cookie or two.
Well, sure. I think you're right. I think in the short term, honestly, Donald Trump obviously has to win. In the long term, though, I think we're in a little bit different spot than in Argentina, because where Milei has a lot of power with a strong executive, for better or for worse, that means that he's able to do a lot of these bold libertarian things unilaterally, which I think has been fantastic for the movement. Not to mention, it's a good proof of concepts that these things work, in the real world and not just on paper. On the other hand, one of the amazing things about our country is that, at least theoretically, the president isn't that powerful here, which means, of course, that you can't just win one race and just change it all. It takes a lot more strategy. It takes a lot more collaboration. And unfortunately, it also means that you have to have your ideas spread throughout a wide variety of parts of the country in order to get Congress and things like that behind whatever plan that you might have. And so it's a much longer term process. I think for liberty to win here in the United States long term, we have to chip away at things. We cannot put all of our cards in one great candidate that's going to just change it all if they win. And that's true if it's Donald Trump. It was true back when Ron Paul was running, and it's going to be true when the next guy comes along. It's going to be a long-term thing, and we're going to have to take our wins a little bit at a time.
Tony, I try not to get too black-pilled about things. You mentioned the great Ron Paul, who was the inspiration for me getting into politics 20 years ago. And I think that there was one thing over the years, I've learned that there are a few things that I maybe disagree with him on here or there, but it just really doesn't matter because we agree on so much. But one of the major things I think I disagreed with Ron Paul is that I'll never forget the video of him ringing the Liberty Bell and saying something like freedom is popular or liberty is popular. Can you agree with it that he was wrong about that? It's really not, is it? Not really. Not here. Not in the United States. Other places, maybe.
I think he's both right and wrong. I think, liberty here is definitely one of those things that it's popular to like liberty, right? People think that they want to be free. But if you actually like really get down to it, when, you know, the heat gets turned on and a crisis happens, or, you know, even a slight inconvenience, people buckle quickly. I mean, look at what happened during COVID. You know, there was not mass uprisings against what the government did. You know, when you and I went to that protest in Jefferson City, it was not well attended. And, you know, when people are tested, they very quickly will lose a lot of the things that they are trumpeting that were just kind of window dressing. And the reality is folks like you and I, who are deeply to our core committed to individual liberty, are unfortunately still the minority.
No, it's true, Tony. And that includes here in Missouri, where statewide we elect Republican politicians in Missouri to enact Democratic policy reforms. Is that about right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because, you know, you checks the box. A lot of people think, oh, well, you know what? I support the Second Amendment because I voted for that Republican or whatever. And then they, you know, just shrug when that Republican decides that, you know, it's perfectly fine that we, I don't know, ban bump stocks.
No, it's a fascinating juxtaposition that we find ourselves in here. I'm speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lovasco. If you have a question for Tony or myself, you can always send a text message to 573-319-1586. That's, again, at 573-319-1586. Any bright spots of optimism in these clouds of woe, Tony? Are you able to find any silver linings in the future that you can sort of point at? Like, what gives you hope, Tony, in order to stay renewed and refreshed in the fight for liberty?
Well, ironically, it's gridlock. You know, the country is so divided right now. There is so much just general hatred for people on the other side of the aisle, regardless of where you stand, that kind of, you know, keeps people from working together against their own interests. You know, I think that the most likely scenario is that Congress will continue to be divided. That regardless of who is president, they're going to be fighting with the Congress, and hopefully very little will get done for anybody, and that slows down the eventual destruction of this nation. So while I think we can ultimately turn things around, what we need is time, and gridlock buys us time.
Exactly. Whenever somebody says like they're not getting anything done, they're not getting anything done in Washington D.C., I'm like, thank God, yes. Tony, we appreciate you. You're a friend of the show. We're grateful to have you. Thanks for being so generous with your time and joining us this morning. Is there anything else you want to say before we let you go, or anything you'd like to plug?
Oh, definitely check me out on social media. I'm on Twitter/X at Tonylovasco. You have my website at Tonylovasco.com.
Tonylovasco.com. Tony, we appreciate you, brother. Have a great day.
Thanks, Austin.
That's Tony Lovasco. Wake Up America show brought to you by viewers and listeners just like you. Your financial contributions have helped us to build not only one awesome show, this show, the Wake Up America show, where you get incredible guests like that, and 2 more coming soon, but 2 more brand new shows coming soon. We've got so much going on right now. We've got liberty coming out of our ears, and before you start cackling about it, just know that this is entirely community funded. So whenever so a lot of times I know people over on Rumble, for example, they may be like, oh, well, I'm only giving $1. I'm only giving $2. Well, that helps. And it goes towards freedom fighting. It goes back into the fight for liberty when it doesn't go into baby's milk bottle. No, baby Hazel. So beautiful, so cute, so sweet. And we're so grateful for every penny that we receive from our supporters, whether you make Rumble Rant donations like Cecilia did a little bit earlier, or Andy Opperman, or if you do what our friend Erd's mommy did and you go over and you go to forlibertyshop.com and you purchase some of our awesome merchandise, again, at forlibertyshop.com. Thanks, everybody. You guys are amazing. And speaking of baseline budgeting over there, Andy Opperman, the best way for us to be able to know what we can do and what we can't do financially here on the Wake Up America show, because honestly, I mean, if everybody who watched the show gave like $1, or like if everybody who watched the show gave $1 every day, we would have the financial means to do anything we want, pretty much. We could produce movies, documentaries. I could hire staff, turn Jefferson City into like a media hub. If every person who watched the show on every network gave $1, that'd be amazing. But for baseline budgeting purposes, the best thing to do for those of you out there who have been watching the show regularly is to do what Kamala Peterson does and become a monthly subscribing supporter. It's not just money for nothing and the chicks for free, although Kamala and our friend Audrey are both very beautiful and they will be here for free. If you don't want to pay, that's fine. But money for nothing, the chicks free. You do get a 20% discount at forlibertyshop.com if you are a monthly subscriber. So make sure you use that discount code if you've got it. But if you want to become a monthly subscriber, you can do so here on Rumble. You get entered into monthly prize drawing giveaways for awesome merch like this from my shop and other fun stuff as well. But if you donate $17.76 a month to help us build this network, you get on the Peterson family Christmas card list. So you get a special personalized thank you card from us, and you get on our Christmas card list, plus that 20% discount, plus the plus all of the other benefits and stuff that we do, the monthly prize drawing giveaways. So if you've been watching the show and you like it, I mean, I don't mean the guilt or anything like that, but here's the fact of the matter is that I rely entirely on what you guys do to support this show. And there's no big corporate networks. Do you note that there's no big giant sponsor or anything either, right? We are entirely crowdfunded. So it may not seem like much, but if you were to become a $5 a month subscriber to the show, that helps us to say, okay, next month we're in business. I can buy a camera. I can send it to Daniela. We can buy, an HDMI cable to send to Brian and the Liberty Tonight guys. I can buy a lot of what I need is like software stuff, right? And those are expensive with monthly subscriptions. So go now to wakeupamericashow.com/support. But if you go to wakeupamericashow.com, there's a support button at the top. You can click it and become a $5 a month supporter today. $17.76 or above is what gets you on the Peterson family Christmas card list and your name in the Pantheon. Whenever we set up like a studio one day that's like exclusively ours, we'll put your name on a plaque. But if you go to wakeupamericashow.com/support now and become a monthly subscriber, then you will help us to build the next generation of Liberty content. Because like Tony and I were talking about, we have been reduced to cinders, and I am trying to help us rise like a phoenix. Thank you. Please do that. Okay. Kamala Peterson. So Olivia Nuzzi, she's this kind of like, I don't know. I mean, people say that she's kind of hot. Like this is like a person who never like was able to like get attractive women's idea of what a hot woman is. Olivia Nuzzi, American political reporter in Washington, D.C., correspondent for Left Liberal New York Magazine. She's placed on leave after she disclosed having a personal relationship with a former subject of her interviews relevant to the 2024 campaign while she was reporting on the campaign, RFK Jr. Hubba hubba. And there's a Keith Olbermann angle in this one. The DC journalists are all defending Olivia Nuzzi for whatever reason. Even like right-wing conservatives are defending her, maybe because they don't get no poon and for whatever reason, they defend like, Missouri 7s and New York 4s. I don't know. Olivia Nuzzi. I'll have pictures. Kamala will blush. It's the Wake Up America show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're going to talk to Kamala about that. And then the perils of being hot. This is about to get fun and weird and sexy and slimy. The problems of being hot. I'll explain to you guys what it's like. I used to be kind of hot. When we get back. And of course, Audrey Pope as well at 8:30. Speaking of hot, we'll be right back on the Wake Up America show.
Haunted by high prices and big government? Don't be a ghost of your former self this Halloween. We've got shirts that'll keep the ghouls and the government off your back. Inflation's scarier than any haunted house, but hey, why not turn it into a costume? Or how about our spooky government shirt? Guaranteed to spook anyone who's afraid of too much power. But if you're feeling real edgy, nothing says Halloween like our Michael Myers No Lives Matter shirt. Because when it comes to big government, we all get slashed. At 4libertyshop.com, we believe in freedom, not fear. So grab your libertarian Halloween gear before the government takes an extra bite out of your wallet. Or your candy. 4libertyshop.com. Let's make Halloween tax-free.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
But law alone cannot make men see right, says John F. Kennedy. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I see you guys are fighting in the comments. Totally fine. Just make sure that you are, please, as respectful as possible to one another. It's fine to disagree, even vehemently, but I just want everybody to love everybody, damn it, and just be friends. Everybody. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. It's Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Get that through your thick, zombified skulls to watch the Wake Up America show 5 days a week. Sorry, never insult your audience, AP. Just insult your guests. Camelia Peterson joins us live on the show. CJ, good morning.
Good morning. I think it's time to not only end the Fed, but also to abolish the Department of Education. You love to hear it.
Very nice. Camelia, when you hear Donald Trump saying, let's abolish the Department of Education, and Thomas Massie says, I think he could do it if he had Congress on his side, don't you kind of just get a little, I don't know, a little tingle, a little tickle? Is that the autumn air, or am I
thrill
feeling
up my
horny?
leg?
I'm horny for liberty.
No, it's wonderful. And the thing is, the encouraging thing is that this is not the first time Trump has said this. So the fact that he is consistently saying this, I love it, right? Now, we need the people, we need him to surround himself with the people who will continue to bolster his determination to do that. And he does need a Congress to work with. That's why, when we talk about what's going to happen in the presidential election itself, the Senate and federal Senate and congressional seats are more important in a lot of ways, because no matter what happens, if we lose Congress, we lose.
Completely agree, Camelia. All eyes are on Pennsylvania, which I believe will determine the fate of the future of this nation. God bless Cliff Maloney. God bless Scott Pressler. And may the wind be at their backs, because that's really what it all comes down to. If we want to abolish the Department of Education, I already see the negative nattering nabobs over on X this morning saying, he's never gonna do that. He didn't do it last time. Why won't he? He won't do it because he didn't do it last time. How do you respond to that, Camelia?
Well,
to the nattering nabobs of negativity.
You have a choice here. You can choose to respond to who will hopefully be the next president of the United States with negativity and contribute absolutely nothing, or you can positively reinforce the good things that he says and his what appears to be a determination to actually do this, because he's talked about it multiple times. You can be a part of the noise that all of the politicians respond to, and if you're saying we like that, we're positively reinforcing that, then maybe we do move the needle in that direction. So your choice. Be a part of the movement.
Of the solution, not a part of the problem.
Be part of the solution.
And I don't know if it was Ayn Rand or somebody who said this great quote, but it was like, the people who say it cannot be done should not stand in the way of those who are doing it.
Lead,
follow, or get out of my way. I'm about to say a good word, but a bad word. If you are currently complaining about the state of the situation and you're not trying to change it or make it happen, and you're standing there with your arms crossed and I don't want, and you're not helping and you're just complaining, do us all a favor and shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up and get the fuck out. Get out. You're not helping anything. I don't do shit. Look at all these people trying to accomplish something and trying to advance the ideals that I claim to hold, right? Some of these people are like, they're almost helping the enemy at some point, right? It's kind of like, at some point, we got to start bringing up some of these people on treason charges. Camelia, what do you say?
So here's the thing. I am as guilty as anybody, and maybe more than a lot of people. In fact, I've been accused of being too critical of my own side, right?
Yes,
so I do think that there is room for holding your own side accountable. I think it's important that we do that, because I think that's part of the problem that the left has, is they have become so progressive because they don't have people on their own side who are keeping them in check. We need those people on our side too, because do we want this to become the authoritarian right? Because we're trending that way.
I criticize the right too. I criticize Trump and his tariff policies and things I disagree with. Go ahead.
But you have to have balance, right? I mean, you also need to reinforce the good behavior, and you do need to be part of the solutions. Like, I can, rant and rave here in Missouri about the failures in the pro-life movement that have led to where we are now, and this initiative that's on the ballot. But the reality is like, I've also been out there doing the work on it, which is more than a lot of people can say on that. So I'm not just griping to gripe. I'm griping because I know, what's worked and what hasn't worked, and I've been there. So do something, be part of something other than just a keyboard warrior.
Yeah, Camelia Peterson. She's not a keyboard warrior, ladies and gentlemen. and all the in-betweenies, the gabies and the theybies. Camelia Peterson actually knocks doors. She actually tries to help people get elected. By the way, Camelia also $17.76 a month donor to the Wake Up America show. Can you bless me with something?
Bless me with something?
Money, please.
Oh,
yes.
God.
Oh, God.
Money
Can you
wise.
suck it?
Hey, and
show's
so
getting
a little
long.
Can you
bit of
suck
an-
it?
Go ahead, Camelia. Go ahead.
Like something a little encouraging, by the way, speaking of Pennsylvania and knocking doors, is I was there not too long ago, helping out the Pennsylvania folks with a congressional race there. And so one of the things that someone told me at the doors was that he was encouraged because there were a lot more Trump signs around than what he's ever seen before. And we had noticed that there seemed to be, this is in Bucks County, which is kind of the battleground area for Pennsylvania. And we have noticed that there seemed to be quite a few, Trump signs. But I didn't know if that was normal, right? But he lives there and he said, that that's not normal. So, between that and what, Cliff Maloney is doing, I think it's looking good.
I'm keeping my options open. I'm trying not to get my hopes up. I'm looking for the silver linings in clouds, but I'm being cautious, right? I'm actively working to try and help Donald Trump get elected while also trying to maintain my integrity and try and maintain my honesty to the degree that I feel it is owed to people who are trying to destroy my life. Stephanie and I had a conversation just about the philosophical question about lying. And she's like, I remember when we first met, she's like, it's never okay to lie to anyone for any reason whatsoever. I'm like, you're Jewish. She's like, yeah. I'm like, it's okay to lie to the Nazis. If they're gonna put you in a camp, like, are you Jewish? No, I'm Irish. She has red hair. You know what I'm saying?
I was saying, we've had this conversation about the noble lie.
Yeah. Well, it's not a noble lie. It's like it's the most noble lie, right? To lie to people who are trying to kill you and put you in the gulag and right, something like that. So unfortunately, the spectrum of conversation about things like that is we're incapable of sort of having these discussions in our society anymore. It's sad, but I don't want to bitch about retarded people because we'd be here all day. Let's talk about Missouri. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of hotness, Camelia, I think you're a solid 6.5.
Okay, thanks.
You're an older lady, you're a single mom, there's some demerits there, right? And, you got one eye and you wear glasses, which some guys think is cute, right? If you're into that kind of thing, you're pretty, you wear nice clothes. There are some guys in the chat, for example, that are really hot for you, but we could talk about that later. But in the context of Olivia Nuzzi, can you believe that I just did that? It's so demeaning. Olivia Nuzzi, she's like a Missouri 8, but like a New York 4 because like it gets really skewed over there. Okay. In Missouri, the differences are Olivia Nuzzi, I don't know, maybe a 7 actually, because she's got kind of a weird face. She has like the Botox and the fillers and all this kind of stuff. She's kind of become this bunny burner for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., where it's like she's stalking him allegedly. I don't know. At least that's the narrative right now. I don't know if that's actually true because he also has like legendarily been with so many women that it's like, do you want to set this story up so I can stop embarrassing myself?
I saw like this phrase and I don't like, what's a bunny burner? Like, I don't know what that
Fatal
means.
Attraction. So yeah, another great movie that you haven't seen. So Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone or something in the 1980s made a movie called Fatal Attraction. And he cheats on his wife and he sleeps with this, I think it's Glenn Close. And she goes crazy for him. She's like falls in love with him and wants him to leave his wife, but he's not going to do it. And like his daughter has a rabbit, and then at one scene, it's been like 40 years, so you haven't seen it. Too bad. She like puts the bunny on the oven and boils it. So they come home and like the rabbit has been like boiled to death in the pot. So they call a woman who is insane. A woman who is insane like that, they call them bunny burners. Never sleep with crazy.
Would never ever have actually. I wouldn't have even been close to that definition. Okay. So yeah, this is she does seem a little crazy. And I will say, when you talk about how she looks, Is it just me, or are more women now kind of like in her position? I don't know, famous people, are the women getting a little more masculine looking?
Yes. Have you
in their
noticed that? You
facial
notice
structure?
that's the
Yes.
chin.
Yeah, and it's like their faces are becoming very square.
Yeah.
It's been bizarre to me. Like Kimberly Guilfoyle is an extreme example,
That's
right?
not even her own blonde hair. Look at the roots here. They're not dyed. It's like,
but I noticed that with Olivia as well, right? I mean, it just is. I don't know. It's weird, and I don't know what does that. Obviously, you can tell when they're using a lot of Botox or whatever. But surely, like Botox, I wouldn't think would be responsible for the change in the face shape. It's just so odd.
I love this headline. Yeah. RFK Jr. may sue Olivia Nuzzi after a writer bombarded him with increasingly pornographic pics and videos. You got to know that RFK Jr.'s wife is like over his shoulder, and he's like, I'm going to sue her. I'm going to sue that hot bitch for...
Well,
so
this story is funny.
Photographs. How dare she send me those photographs? I'm so offended.
Well, and there's just a little line in this article from the New York Post that makes you go, uh-huh. And because reportedly, his side of the story is that he did this interview with her, right? And so she started, somebody supposedly who was close to his campaign or something that was a friend of hers, like she was asking around about his relationship with women on the staff and his wife, and is he very flirty? Like, all these digging for details. Right. And so she then sent him a text, and she was sending him text kind of under the pretense of, like needing something journalistic. Right. But they were flirty. Right. And so then she started sending him pictures, and supposedly he then blocked her. But then she would use another number or another email or something and find a way to contact him again under the pretext of something. And he would unblock her, and she would send him more things. And it was increasingly, more risque. And so, this kind of goes back and forth. And this is a story. And the quote that really cracked me up was, once unblocked, she bombarded him with increasingly pornographic photos and videos that he found difficult to resist. After brief exchanges, he would block her again.
I know that feeling, man.
Like,
it's tempting
sure,
out there. It's tempting out there. You're like, when you're a Kennedy, you're tempted most men will never know what it's like to be tempted at the highest level. I remember watching Bill Burr's stand-up comedy sketch, and he was talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger cheating on his wife. And like part of this has to be that they're all hopped up on this, I think it's testosterone or whatever. Is it like hormones? Whatever it is, it's like making him jacked at 69 years old or whatever, however old he is.
TRT.
Yeah, he's a Kennedy already, so he's already kind of horned up like a rabbit and all that stuff. Like, by the way, for those who are tuning in the show from now to the rest of the show, I declare it PG-13 to rated R. So if you got kids, the rest of the show is just not family friendly. And I'm about to go turn off the YouTube feed. So if you're watching us on YouTube right now, I'm about to cut the feed. So just why don't you make your way over to Rumble where they don't censor. We can talk about adult topics like adults at rumble.com/AP for Liberty, but do expect that this stream will disappear on over on YouTube. X is fine because Elon Musk doesn't care, and I'm sure people over there can take jokes and sexual innuendos. But when you're a Kennedy and you're tempted to that level, it's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Of course he's going to bang the maid, right? It's like, but he's a politician. He's running for president. When I ran for president, I was single, so it wasn't the same thing, right? It's completely different when you're married and you've got Cheryl Hines and she's an actress. I mean, I can imagine that it would be like if your husband cheated on you, Camellia, you would not put up with that shit. You would not even, but I mean, don't you think that at that level that there is a chance, maybe Cheryl Hines is mad, but maybe it's just like you marry a Kennedy is kind of like, what comes with the package?
She may have known what she was getting into is what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, my guess is that she, is walking in eyes wide open. I was trying to find it. I can't find it now, but there was, it's a woman who is in the Liberty circles, well known for a long time, does a lot of journalistic stuff. But anyway, Jen Monroe, actually, that's who that is. Anyways, on X, she had had tweeted and had said she was enjoying this because the irony is that whoever Olivia, is it Nuzzi or Nuzzi or I don't know anyway, whoever she was engaged to, I can't remember his name, some media guy. Anyway, whoever she was engaged to, he has broken off their engagement now that this stuff about RFK has come out. And she was like, and so he is 20 years older than Olivia is, and apparently left his wife and kids for her. And so now Olivia has cheated on him, was reportedly with someone who is another 20 years older than he is.
You know what's so sad? You know what's really sad too about this, Camilla, is like how, like for men, like we're destined to lose because some girl somewhere is going to send you a nude, whether solicited or not, or some butt's going to come up on your screen these days with guys. And it didn't used to be like the definition of cheating has expanded. And so it's like, is texting cheating? Yes. Is getting a nude photo sent? Yes. Like if it's there's so many new ways to cheat on your lover that it's like, or your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, that it's kind of like with a Kennedy, like it's like guaranteed to happen. If you have a public figure and you use the most liberal definition, if you have like a boyfriend or girlfriend, or you date somebody who's got any following, whatever, I can't imagine what it must be like being a guy whose girlfriend is an influencer and she's like, maybe she's a fitness influencer. How do you even deal with that? Like, how would you even deal? I mean, Cheryl Hines is obviously famous and so she's used to something like that. But like for most people who are influencers aren't like, Kennedys, they're not like family dynasties here in the United States. So it's damn near impossible anymore to avoid it. You have to kind of like be a nun, live in the forest, or you have to just sort of be like, you know what? If they sexted, it's not worth divorcing over. Or if they exchange nudes, it's not worth divorcing over. But because they never actually touched each other, right?
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like when you talk about if you are with somebody who puts out that kind of content, or they are in such a position that people are sending them those things, right? It is all about, how your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, husband, wife, it's all how they respond, right? You can receive those things. You can put out fitness influencer content, but there are definitely there are lines. There are people who are doing it there because they want you to look at there are women who are doing fitness influencing because they want you to look at their butt, right? But there are women who are actually doing it because they want to be helpful to women. And there's like a stark difference between the two accounts. It's very easy to see. And, it requires that you know your partner and you have a level of trust there that you just know whether or not they are going to be susceptible and responsive to those advances that are inevitable by virtue of their position in life or the content they put out or the work that they do. And so I think that it's possible, but it's probably higher risk. Like if you're with somebody like that, it is probably higher risk because it takes a greater amount of, self-discipline totally and control to resist those things.
Yeah. I mean, Steffi, because I was like a D-list celebrity when we met, right? A public figure, like, I had to talk to her about my past dating experiences. And because you have people like bunny burners who are trying to destroy your life, I had to let her know. I'm like, there might be some crazy exes and things. And come to find out there were like, she would be contacted by women and say, he was a mean boyfriend or whatever, something like that. And I'm like, she's crazy. I told you she's crazy. Right. But when it comes to RFK Jr., the stakes are so high for someone like that in this kind of a situation. And it's like, you're running for president. It's kind of, this is sort of why I'm really glad he stepped down, in part because like when I saw specifically that he couldn't keep Donald Trump's call a secret the day after the assassination. I was like, this isn't, I know like some of our libertarian friends are like, charge the CIA. And I'm like, no, no, do not put him in a national security role. Help him.
For real, right?
Have him make healthy protein shakes for everybody and talk about the benefits of testosterone, steroid supplements for, having a healthy sex life when you're an old man. How about that? Let's make America sexually healthy again. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Olivia Nuzzi can teach us how it's done.
There you go. You can put him in charge of the FDA or something like that, and then he can get rid of that too.
Yeah. People have a hard time, especially talking publicly about their sex life, right? They don't want to maybe obviously show intimate details about their friends or their family. But I mean, we love voyeurism and the chance to see inside of like the sex lives of celebrities. And this sort of just confirms what everybody would imagine would happen. But I mean, there are a lot of like conservative right-wingers and journalists and people that are kind of defending Olivia Nuzzi's behavior. There's a little bit of a different, well, here's the thing. The ethics on both sides may be a little messed up for different reasons, but we haven't covered the fact that Olivia Nuzzi is a reporter. She's a journalist. She's working for a respected news magazine. She's not supposed to do things like this. I mean, it's right for her to be fired over something like this. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree. I mean, there are lines that you just don't cross for ethical reasons because it, leads to, unethical practices in your business.
Right. Boy, it's a fascinating conversation. Steffi Liberty over in the chat. Whoo, she's here. It's better that she's around when we're talking like this. She says, I enjoy knowing Austin's past. I find it to be helpful and interesting. Yes, she finds it to be very interesting. Camellia.
Yes.
We've got a little bit less than 10 minutes until our next guest comes on. Audrey's a fascinating character. She's related to one of our close friends.
No.
Yes. Last name Pope. You're going to find this very interesting in less than 10 minutes when I speak to my next guest about the Puff Daddy stuff. She's an interesting character. She turned her life around. I found Audrey last month when she did like a TikTok reaction to J.D. Vance being called a racist in the New York Times, and I tried to book her. It didn't work out. So today she'll be on the show.
Awesome.
She has a past life that she has turned around, a dark past that she has turned around into a computer science degree. She is an ex-atheist, now Christ curious. And she is also a Trump supporter now. And I find that fascinating. She's kind of like, basically coming out of Plato's cave. She's at the beginning of her red pill journey to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I think you're really going to enjoy that conversation. I hope people will stick around for it. But I want to give you the chance to say your last word on this topic, Camellia. We won't have time to talk about being hot, unfortunately, and what that means, why that could be a bad thing. I know, you're in Missouri, you're hot, Camellia. I'm not hot in New York, by the way, right? You have to be sculpted out of clay perfectly by, an Italian artist in New York City to be considered hot. So we're in Missouri, you and I, we do well. We're better than average attractive people, right? But there are some problems that come with that, right? So you go to the store, guys are checking you out, right? You always tell me that people don't slide into your DMs, right? But they do slide into mine because I'm, a little bit hot, right? And, even though I'm 43 and I'm getting up there and gray hairs and all that kind of stuff, but there are some negatives being hot, right, Camellia?
Well, so, I mean, and the thing is when you talk about Olivia Nuzzi and that whole story, and, a lot of people will say that women are in journalism and reporting because of pretty privilege, right? So that's that, you have an advantage. There's some guy that always tells me if, certain people interact with me online, it's hashtag pretty privilege, right? It's not because of my charm and my quick wit and sense of humor and intelligence or anything like that, right? So, but, so maybe Olivia's failing. And I had another friend who also told me that, pretty privilege gets you there and intelligence keeps you there. So
that's right.
Maybe that's Olivia's problem is the pretty privilege has been getting her places, but maybe she's lacking in the other department.
Oh God, Camellia. So good. It's true. I've seen many beautiful women get a door open for them and then just blow the opportunity because they couldn't keep up with the people who were operating the higher level, who were hot and smart. That's you, Camellia, hot and smart.
Oh, thanks.
At Rare Camellia over on X. Yeah, they were giving you lots of credit earlier. They were like, oh no, Camellia's like, yes, if for the sapiosexuals out there, I absolutely agree. Camellia, thank you very much for your time today. You have a wonderful day, and I'm glad that I could make you embarrassed and blushing many times like I always do. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone.
See you on Thursday. Yes. I love it. My next guest has turned her life around from a dark past of addiction now to a life on the straight and narrow. Audrey Pope is going to talk to us about people who don't live their lives on the straight and narrow. She's going to talk to us about the lifestyles of the rich and famous and some of the dirty, nasty, sticky, ooey, gooey, crusty, scummy, well, I'm going to cummy. It's Donald Trump. Do not come. Do not come. We'll be right back. Audrey Mullen. I'm Audrey. I want to get back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Years ago, we started this journey together, bringing you the Wake Up America show every morning. I couldn't have done it without my incredible wife, Steffi, who's always by my side, and now our beautiful baby, Hazel, who's already getting used to studio life, waiting patiently during Freedom Family Fridays. What truly makes this show special is you. Your donations, your purchases from forlibertyshop.com. You're not just supporters, you're family. Together we've built something amazing, and we're just getting started. Thank you for being a part of our family. Here's to many more years of Wake Up America.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.
Good morning, everybody. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. We've got 2 brand new shows coming this fall. I'm so excited to produce for you Liberty Tonight and Culturama. It's going to be great, guys. I have just been so excited working behind the scenes to produce these new shows for you, and I think you guys are really going to appreciate it when you get to see Culturama and Liberty Tonight. The announcement date for the new network's launch is coming in a matter of days. So make sure you stay glued to the Wake Up America show right here, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Click like if you haven't, and follow if today's your first time here. If you want all the insider details about what's happening with the network, you're going to have to go to the locals page at forliberty.locals.com. There you can interact with me and the rest of the people in our Liberty Network, make friends, network, win friends, influence people, all the stuff Dale Carnegie said that we should do if you want people to like you. And gosh darn it, I hope people like me at forliberty.locals.com. My next guest is very likable. Although she's had a very dark past, she has seen the light. She's turned her life around. She's got a degree in computers. She's joining us live right now with a very familiar last name. Her name is Audrey Pope. She's joining us live this morning on the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Audrey. Welcome to your show for the first time,
Good morning. Thank you so much. This is my first time being on a podcast.
Well, Audrey, I knew everybody was just going to flip over your accent because it's absolutely adorbs. I did bring you on here to talk about a serious subject, but because we've got so many regular guests of the show who are like, who's this? How did you find her? Just real quick, Audrey did this awesome video that went viral on TikTok about J.D. Vance and him being called a racist. And I was like, I have to book her for my show because she's brilliant and funny. And then we didn't connect then. And then I found a message from her like yesterday, and I was like, let's get her on the show today. And that's how Audrey came to be on the Wake Up America show to grace us with her presence. So welcome, Audrey. And we look forward to hearing your point of view on, from your dark past. I imagine you can draw on some of the experiences and the people that you've known in a shady area of American life. And that is the entertainment world's underbelly, the sort of seedy underbelly, like the Moulin Rouge of the United States. I mean, you're a ballerina. I know for sure you might know the Moulin Rouge, or maybe you've even danced there. But there's always this world where, like, the most of the rich and powerful and famous people, whether it's in Louisiana or whether it's in Hollywood or whatever, they like to congregate and live on the fringes of society so they can get away with not only satisfying some of their fetishes, but some of the crimes that they want to commit in their pursuit of passion. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. And we were talking about, what's going on with Diddy, and it just made me think back to my childhood. He kind of took Usher under his wing, and it just makes me think back to all of the experiences I had being a vulnerable kid. And I think a lot of these kids in Hollywood come from vulnerable positions. Like they're expected to support their family, and they're expected to make money, and they're highly sexualized at a very young age. And I can relate with that on a smaller scale. I remember being 11 years old, and my dad had passed away, and we had like a yard man, and he was looking through my window saying, "You look," and the next day he was like, "I saw you through your window and you looked real pretty, in your room." And it's just like, I see these kids being sexualized, and it's almost like it's like akin to sex trafficking. Like, there haven't been any formal allegations or anything from Diddy on that front, but it seems really weird that he had legal guardianship over Usher when he was like 14 years old. And it's like we talk about, that there's all this sex trafficking going on behind the scenes, but it's going on in Hollywood right in front of our faces. These young kids are being over sexualized when they're like 14 years old, and they're being over sexualized for these grown men and women to make money. And it's just like, why are we okay with this? I just don't really understand it. And it's like, oh, because it's Hollywood, it's okay. It's okay for these kids to be over sexualized when they're just teenagers. It's okay for them to be the breadwinners of their family. And, you know, they're put in this vulnerable position where, oh, I have to be the breadwinner. I have to make all this money. And then you know, they're they're put in this position where they're so important, and you know, everybody loves them, and they get that from being like, oh, you know, you can do this little move and you can be, you know, real sexy and everybody's gonna love you. And it it breaks my heart that this is happening in Hollywood and happening to kids. And
Did you ever see that movie Sound of Freedom, Audrey?
yes.
A very good film. And the thing that I think is so shocking, and some people, you know, it's the adventures of the guy who just started paying attention, right? So they're shocked by everything because it's kind of like, you know, where have you been? Open your eyes. But one of the things about The Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel, is it shows that the clientele of the access to children that is being provided by many of these cartels and these organizations, right? That dark, seedy underbelly, if you will, is that the only type of people who really can afford to do these kinds of things are very rich people, very wealthy people. It costs a lot of money to do things like what they did. They showed in Sound of Freedom. People travel to South America or to places in Eastern Europe where they can engage in these crimes. And in so doing, that they are showing that this is like the guy who runs your local bank in your hometown, right? This is the muckety muck politician in your hometown. And so it actually, the implications of that, because most people are poor, most people tend to be middle class or middle of the road, middle income, and the top 1% are going into other countries and buying children, and they've been getting away with it for so long. I think we thought that after Jeffrey Epstein, maybe there would be some accountability, but I think the Diddy story just shows there really hasn't been accountability. I mean, do you expect there to be any accountability other than maybe just Diddy? You think Diddy's going to die in his cell before anybody goes to jail, really?
I don't know. And then it brings up the question of, why is this coming out now? I know that, like, his name is Lil Rod, you know, he brought up these allegations. But, you know, all of these celebrities in Hollywood have obviously known that this has been going on, and nobody said anything. You know, Diddy's always been cool. And it's funny, like, they demonize Kanye and Dave Chappelle and people like them for just speaking, like, not speaking politically correct, like, you know, saying things that might make you think. But Diddy's just been, you know, on that side, like, just being cool, saying all the right things, but he's actually behind the scenes doing all this weird stuff. And I don't think, and it seems like Dave Chappelle especially, you know, he stayed away from that side of Hollywood, but he's so demonized. It doesn't make any sense. Like, there is absolutely something strange and evil going on behind the scenes in Hollywood. And so it's like, is there some